Something happens in your brain the moment you feel left out. Not metaphorically, physiologically. And there is a decent chance that feeling, that quiet sting of exclusion, ends up in your bank statement before the week is over. The standard explanation goes like this. Social rejection hurts. Humans are fundamentally social creatures, wired over hundreds of thousands of years, to need belonging the way they need food and warmth. When that need goes unmet, when someone is excluded, overlooked, or dismissed, it creates a real and measurable emotional deficit. And like most deficits, the mind tries to fill it. Shopping, the theory says, is a convenient repair mechanism. It delivers something immediate, a small hit of agency, a signal of status, a moment of sensory pleasure. You did not get invited to the dinner, but you did just buy something new. And for a window of time, maybe an hour, maybe a day, the ache is quieter. This idea has generated a significant body of research over the past 2 decades. Studies have demonstrated repeatedly that people report higher purchase intent after social exclusion scenarios. The pattern is robust enough that it has its own name in the consumer behavior literature: compensatory consumption. The logic is clean. The mechanism seems intuitive. The advertising industry has quietly understood this for years, and most of the popular conversation stops here. Rejection hurts, shopping soothes, wallet suffers. The headline writes itself, but the more carefully you look at the research, the more you notice something the headline version tends to skip. Here is the gap that deserves more attention. The bulk of compensatory consumption research is built on 2 foundations: self-reported purchase intent and laboratory simulations of social rejection, typically a paradigm where participants are told, in a controlled setting, that other study participants do not want to work with them. Both methods are useful. Neither of them is the full picture. Self-reported purchase intent is not actual spending. There is a documented and persistent gap between what people say they will do with money and what they actually do. Laboratory rejection scenarios, meanwhile, produce a genuine emotional response that has been verified, but they lack the duration, the personal history, and the ambient chronic quality of real social exclusion. This distinction matters more than it initially appears, because there is a meaningful difference between the acute sting of a single social slight and the low-grade, persistent experience of feeling chronically disconnected from colleagues, from community, from people who seem to belong somewhere you do not. The laboratory can approximate the first. It has a harder time modeling the second, and the second may be where the more consequential financial behavior actually lives. Research into loneliness and risk behavior, including work conducted with isolated populations in real-world settings, suggests that chronic social disconnection shifts baseline decision-making in ways that go well beyond a temporary mood repair. The relationship is not just emotional, it appears to be physiological. Long-term social isolation is associated with dysregulation of stress response systems, altered threat perception, and a measurable pull toward short-term reward over long-term planning. Turbinaic merely glowing nodes, some dimly lit and disconnected from the main cluster. That is a different mechanism than I feel sad, so I will buy something to feel better. That is a nervous system that has been chronically recalibrated by the experience of not belonging, and the spending patterns that follow from that state are not fully captured by asking someone in a lab whether they would like to purchase a luxury pen. Let us be specific about what the evidence actually shows and where it stops. Research into social deprivation and physiological stress response has a longer history than most people realize. Studies conducted in the late 1980s with socially isolated primates demonstrated that chronic social subordination and exclusion produced measurable changes in cardiovascular health, not just behavioral distress. The animals who were persistently excluded from social groups showed accelerated arterial damage compared to those with stable social bonds. The exclusion was getting into the body. More recent work on loneliness in human populations reinforces this direction. Studies examining isolated populations in real-world contexts, not laboratories, have documented elevated engagement in risky and impulsive behaviors among people experiencing chronic social disconnection. The pattern appears across different cultures and economic settings. Chronic loneliness does not just feel bad, it seems to alter the decision architecture. Neuroimaging work has added another layer. The brain region most associated with processing physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex, shows activation in response to social exclusion. This is the origin of the phrase social pain. It is not merely poetic. The overlap in neural real estate is genuine, and pain, when it becomes chronic, changes how a system operates. It shifts priorities. It shortens time horizons. Now connect that to spending. The consumer behavior research does consistently find that exclusion increases purchase intent, and does so specifically for products that signal status, warmth, or social belonging. Not just any purchase. The compensatory mechanism appears to be targeted. People are not simply seeking stimulation. They are seeking in the objects they buy a substitute for the social signal that was denied. What the evidence does not prove is the directionality of the long-term effect. Most studies are cross-sectional or short-term experimental. We have strong evidence for the acute relationship between rejection and purchase intent. We have suggestive evidence for the chronic physiological effects of social disconnection, the direct causal chain between chronic exclusion and cumulative financial harm. The link that would fully explain the bank statement is supported by the pattern of evidence but has not been established by a single clean longitudinal study. That is worth holding on to. The mechanism is plausible, and the evidence points in a consistent direction. But the precise magnitude of the financial effect, across a real life over real time, is still something the research is working toward. The COVID-19 period gave researchers an unplanned natural experiment in enforced social disconnection at scale. Studies examining consumer behavior during lockdown periods found significant shifts in purchasing patterns, including elevated spending in certain categories, though isolating the effect of social disconnection specifically from the many other stressors of that period remains methodologically difficult. So what does any of this mean for the way you actually move through your financial life? The standard framing, rejection leads to retail therapy, positions the behavior as a lapse, a momentary weakness, something to catch and correct. That framing may be missing the more important question. If the mechanism is not just emotional but physiological, if chronic disconnection is quietly recalibrating your risk tolerance and compressing your time horizon, then the spending is not the root problem. It is a signal, and treating the signal without examining the source is unlikely to change much. There is a Jungian observation worth making here. Money has always been a mirror. What we do with it, particularly under stress, tends to reflect the parts of ourselves we have not yet examined. The gap between what we earn and what we have is sometimes less about financial literacy and more about what we are trying to resolve through the act of acquiring. You may recognize a version of this in yourself. Not the dramatic retail binge after a bad social experience. Something quieter, a low-level drift towards spending during periods when connection feels thin. A budget that holds when life feels full and loosens when it does not. That drift is worth paying attention to. Not as a moral failing, but as information. The question it raises is not how do I stop spending, but what is the disconnection this spending is trying to address? And is there a more direct path to addressing it? Here is the unresolved part. Even if all of this is directionally correct, even if chronic social disconnection really does reshape financial behavior in the ways the evidence suggests, it does not follow that the solution is simply more connection. Loneliness is not always a problem people can spend their way out of, socially or financially. And the research is clear that the relationship between exclusion, stress physiology, and behavior is complex enough that simple interventions tend to underperform. What the science leaves open is the harder question: whether awareness of the mechanism is itself useful. Knowing why you are doing something does not automatically change what you do, but it might change how you understand what you are doing. And that, at least, seems worth sitting with. The research behind this video draws from Foods, Basel, Switzerland, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America, Frontiers in Nutrition, BMC Public Health, Atherosclerosis. Every claim traces to a published source. Full citations are in the description below. If the way this channel thinks about neuroscience resonates with you, subscribing helps this work reach people who'd appreciate it. New videos on the science of mind every